Welcome to the Midnight Series, where we slip into our PJs and lean into the uncomfortable, one late night conversation at a time. Think of this as your late night sleepover with friends, the kind where conversation gets real after the lights go out. So slip into your PJs, grab your favorite beverage, and let's begin.
I fell asleep so early. Like Evan went to bed, I think at 8, and I fell asleep at like 9, which is really early for me.
That is early for you, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, and I fell asleep in all my makeup and everything. And so, yeah, I was like, now my skin, I feel like one night and I'm like breaking it. Well, that's a lie. I've done this like twice this week. So I guess my
Yeah.
skin's mad at me.
Yeah, probably so, I would think.
Mhm.
Well, I don't have makeup on either. My hair is still a little wet because I took a steam shower. I have a little bit of a cold,
Oh
so
no. How's
I was
Tate?
steaming it out this morning. He's good. And that's something I wanted to briefly mention anyway,
Yeah.
because by the time this episode comes out, Heather's episode will have been out.
Yeah.
And so just for the people listening, like I kind of just disappear in the middle of that episode because Tate got sick and I ended up, long story short, having to take him to the ER. But he's good. That IV brought him back to life. He was like a totally different baby after that.
So glad.
And then I was so glad I took him because that evening when we got home, he spiked a little bit of a fever. It was very low grade, but I was like, can you imagine him being that dehydrated and then spiking a fever on top of that
Yep.
without
Looked so
having
ghostly.
got, oh, it was heartbreaking. The way he looked will haunt me.
Oh, it's so scary. I would have freaked out. I
It
don't
was
know.
so
I
scary.
don't even, but he didn't look like that. I'm assuming when you got on, he was just
No, no, no,
like
that
it
was,
was
like,
that
in the
quick.
middle of it. Yes, and so that's why I was like, I don't know, I was kinda going back and forth. I was like, "Oh my gosh, has he had an iron deficiency this whole time and it's just, like, completely gone over my head? Is he, like, facing some sort of anemia right now?" Because it was so sudden, but then
Yeah.
the ER doctor kind of made me feel better about that because he was like, "If it were anemia and he looked one day yesterday or like one thing yesterday and then today he's that pale, it's like, where did all the blood go?" You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
wouldn't be that. And so he drew his labs anyways just to check his iron levels and they were perfect. His blood work was across the board, like, wonderful,
Thank the
but they
Lord.
do check. I know, and we probably needed to do that anyway. He's 4, just to make sure
Mhm.
everything's looking good, um, but they check the dehydration levels, and they were elevated, so he somehow just got extremely dehydrated extremely fast because
How does that
I
even
was checking
happen?
his. I don't know, he said sometimes, like, kids have weird immune responses to viral things.
Mhm.
He said it could have been a GI thing that just went undetected because he's nonverbal. Like, he could have had a
Yeah.
stomachache for days, and he couldn't tell me, "Hey, mommy, my tummy hurts."
Mhm.
But, since he's nonverbal, I'm constantly checking, like, his water intake, his food.
Yeah.
Is he eating normally? Are his diapers wet? Because, he's not potty trained.
Yeah.
And everything was fine. It just went from 0 to 100.
So fast.
Yeah, and that's why in the episode you'll see, like, I'm there holding him, and then I'm gone. Like,
Yeah.
I was out.
And I remember I'd be like, "That's odd." So I checked my phone. You're like, "I have to take him to the doctor." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hope she's okay." I was like, "That's really weird."
Yeah, yeah. So I ended up, Ross's company has a doctor on site that
Mhm.
sees the employees and the family members, and so they close at noon, and I think it was, like, 11:45 when I hopped off the recording,
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ross, drive, because she's on campus. And I'm like, Ross, drive over there. Like, don't let her leave until I get over there with Tate. Like, something's wrong. Like, I was taking him to see her first.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
so
they don't
we
offer, do y'all have insurance, or is it they do it all in
yeah,
house?
yeah. So we have insurance, there's a family plan, but since the company is so big, they offer that free medical care, treatment,
Got
and
you.
Dare can actually break this down for you, like why companies do this, like bigger corporations, because that's what she did, for so long.
Yeah.
So we have like that higher deductible plan, but they have, a physician on.
That
Mhm.
totally makes sense.
Yeah. So she doesn't really have all the peds equipment in her office, because she's not like a pediatrician. She's a
She's like
primary.
family medicine,
Um,
just general.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a whole thing. Just trying to run around on a Friday before a snowstorm like clobbers North Carolina and try to find someone who will get eyes on him and do blood work was the problem. I went to a couple different clinics that were like, "We'll do the blood work and let you know in a few days." And I'm like, "Well, is a doctor gonna lay eyes on him? Like, I don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable just taking him home like this," which I'm
No.
so glad I didn't do because they would have missed the dehydration because his
How
blood work, his labs
how
came back
would you
fine.
have missed the
McKenzie, you
dehydration?
saw. I know, but because you saw what
I
he looked like,
I would not I'm not even a doctor,
and
and I would have never let him leave without checking
thank you.
dehydration. Like,
Ex Yes.
that was my first thought. Like,
Well, so they were trying to just send me into, like, the phlebotomist and then send me home, and that's why I'm like, "W no, I want a doctor to lay eyes on him." Like, I don't feel
this is
comfortable with
why
him
we literally go straight to the ER
to the ER.
anytime there,
Mhm.
but there again, we don't have a high deductible plan, so, like, everything's covered now, so it's like,
Right, exactly, so that's, like, the thing we were like,
I
"Okay,
it's
well,
so
now we're gonna have a
hard.
$2,000 bill."
Which, yeah, you can't every time there's an issue run to the ER
Yeah.
and get
But
2,
in
3,
this
$4,000 bill.
exactly,
But that's
exactly,
so
and
scary, and it's like, as a mom, you're
it
like,
was
"Am I
so scary.
overreacting? Like, is this an emergency? Is this not?" And then him not being verbal. Oh gosh, Rebecca, that's so hard.
Uh-huh. I know. I'm so glad I took him to the ER. You say this all the time, like, there were so many blocks that
Mhm.
were happening in that time that I took him to the company doctor, to clinic after clinic. There was times where they couldn't even pull up his chart and, like, see what was going on, and I'm like, God was blocking me. He was like,
Yeah.
he wanted him at the ER. He's like, "You need
There
to get that child to the ER."
I saw this, one of the some creator online, he was saying that we look at them oftentimes as blocks, but they're actually fences, and it's God, like,
Yeah.
keeping us safe and, like, on the path that
Uh,
he wants us to
uh,
go down, and I loved that because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he really is." Like, and you
yeah.
could have taken that and been, like, so frustrated and so upset, but it ended up being such a blessing because he was so dehydrated. Can you imagine if you had not gone and then y'all were snowed in? And,
Yeah.
oh, I
And he
just
spiked a fever. He would have been worse off even before.
oh, it's so
I know.
scary. I'm so
It was
sorry you
so
went through that.
thank you. I definitely had to process a little bit of trauma,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it's just like you said, like I did feel so divinely protected in that moment. And I felt like he was as well.
Yeah.
And when we got out of the ER, we were driving home and I was talking to my sister and she's like, "Do you just wanna cry? Like, now that you're out of the hospital
Yeah.
and he's fine," and she's like, "Do you just wanna cry?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I really do." And there's, like, the most beautiful sunset, and Tate was just in the background singing, and I was like, "This is why I love God so much. It's little
Yeah.
moments like this." But anyways, I felt like I needed to explain my disappearance
Oh my gosh, no, I get it.
from the from the
I
recording before.
I knew, like, if you were gone, there was something really wrong, and so then I was like, "Do I keep Heather on? Should I mean, I'm not even I'm, what, 2 hours from you, so I can't like, I was like, "What do I do? Like, should I remember calling Evan, I was like, "I don't wanna call her because obviously she's in the middle of something, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna give her a few hours. If I don't hear from her, I'm gonna text her again." And so I
Yeah.
finished it with Heather, which was such a good conversation. I told her, I was like, "We need to
Yeah.
have you back on because there is so much that I
Oh,
and
good.
oh, it's so good." Like, when you go watch it back to edit, like, it's so good, and so Heather, I don't know if I said this, but she's kind of my, like, spiritual guide right now. She was very clearly, put into my life. It was funny because the day before I actually ended up connecting with her, I had asked God, I was like, "Hey, I think I need, like, a spiritual mentor of some sort." There was this manifestation coach that I had seen, and she was saying about how everyone was like, "How did you find your shaman?" And I don't know exactly how I feel about shaman, to be totally honest. Jury's out on that one. I'll decide later with God. But I was like, she was like, "Well, it's truly is like when the student's ready, the teacher will appear." And I was like,
Oh, wow.
"Okay, God, like,
Yeah.
I think I'm ready. You tell me if I'm ready." And literally the next day, I connected with Heather and really to get her on the
Wow.
podcast. But then we
Uh-huh.
just like kindred souls, kindred spirits, like
Yeah.
just, and I was like, "I want to work with you." And well, she needed help in her business. And I had an offer that was literally perfect for her that could organize how she reaches people. And she was like, she's like, "Okay, like, how much is it?" And everything. And I told her. And then I was like, "You know what? Do you want to do a trade?" She was like, she almost started
Yeah.
crying because she was like, "Wait, what?" She didn't think she could help me. And then, like, not there's so much wrong with me she couldn't help with me, but, like, she
You're
thought
like,
I
"To clarify."
yeah, to clarify, there's a lot wrong, but, she yeah, she was just like, "How do I think she doesn't realize how much she has to offer either, and that was something we were working through in her work, just business-wise, and, we ended up doing a trade, and she's like, "Yeah, I was so nervous." That what she was saying to God, "Please, please, please, like, provide like, tell me what I need to say and, like, what I need to do, like, how can I help her on the level that she's helped me?" And I remember us meeting and we just started, like, the spirit portrait came and I told all that example or told that story and gave examples of the work we've done, and then we just had the most in-depth conversation about my own spiritual, like, my own blocks, like, actual blocks that are
Uh-huh.
from my end, um, and just my questions and doubts, and it's been so nice to have somebody who is woo, but, like, woo for Jesus.
Woo for Jesus. I love that.
And, like, she's so well versed in scripture, like, she's literally been studying the
Yeah.
Bible straight,
Yeah.
like, every week going through, like, literal line by line, studying it with a group since 2020. So this is her going on her 6th year of
Yeah.
studying, and so it's so nice, like, to have somebody. I really feel like God just sent her and dropped her in my lap.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, I mean, I think people don't realize that there is such an in-depth spiritual component to even just reading the Bible because there's
Mm.
so much hidden mystery and truth
Yes.
and enlightenment in the pages that just like we were talking about with Maddie May, it just depends on how you show up and
Yeah.
the lens that you put on to read the scripture if you're gonna see that spiritual side or if you're not. Um,
Yeah.
and so I do think that that's so cool that she has that deep level of understanding spiritually and biblically.
Yeah. It's odd to find that, to be honest.
I agree.
And I think but I also think that there is this big awakening kind of happening and that a lot of people are starting to question things, and
Yeah.
astrologically, that totally makes sense. We need to have Amanda back on because
Yeah. Yeah.
literally all the which is wild, all the astrologers are like, "Yep, mhm, this is all happening, like this yep, this
Yeah.
tracks." And, you know, I think that more and more people are waking up. So I do think that there is going to be more of a movement or a push to hold biblical ideas and base your ideology off of the Bible, but also have that spiritual component that has previously like, that's what's missing, I think, in a lot of churches and a lot of
Yeah.
groups.
Mhm.
But I think it's on the
Yeah.
rise.
No.
I think more and more people are waking up and connecting the dots. At least I hope, or maybe that's just my algorithm.
Well, I mean, I find it probably to be true, but I mean, it's even like people on the side of astrology or more on the woo-woo side
Yeah.
that also too don't have that biblical
Yeah,
component. Whereas when you're craving both, which I think aligns biblically and
it
spiritually,
does.
at least for me
For
and
me
my
too.
spirit. Yeah, and I think that's why we connect so much. Is there isn't really a place for that yet in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I
Which
mean? Like,
is
for
where
people like us.
well, and that's where Jesus says or God says, "Find me in the middle, in the narrow path."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that there is a middle ground. And, my mom and I have had in-depth discussions on new age practices and what people consider woo-woo and energy work and things like that.
Mhm.
And I remember just, like, having this, I guess, download come over me from the Lord, and he was like, "This was always my design." Like, I and it's supported in scripture when he is creating the world and, like, thinking about all of the beauty that he creates and speaks life into in Genesis. It's it's energies all throughout. And so
Mhm.
he puts in every living thing has an energetic force, right? Or energetic field.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
these new age teachings are things that maybe people, I'm not saying all, but people that maybe use it to worship Satan, the devil, darkness, whatever. Um, it's kind of been hijacked. And that doesn't make energy in and of itself bad. That doesn't make
Mhm.
crystals or sage or um, even nervous system regulation. That's not even woo woo at all,
Mhm.
but somehow it's gotten this really bad rap that if you regulate your nervous system, that somehow that's woo woo or somehow that's new age, when actually it's not new age, it's old age. Like, this is what God designed from my understanding and what aligns with my spirit. This is all how God designed it. And I'm on a tangent because I'm reading The Anatomy of the Spirit,
No.
but
Oh, I
it's
just
just so
finished it. It's
interesting.
so good. So good. Yeah, and I think it's a huge miss by the majority of people, and I've even been here myself, um, to think that Satan can't hijack anything. He can hijack religion, he can hijack education, he can hijack
Yeah,
medicine, he can hijack families, he can hijack work, career. He can
yeah,
so to kind of start placing boxes around things where Satan can only fit in and where God can only fit in, I think limits us extremely. And God is a transcendental being. We will never fully know the magnitude of his creation, the magnitude of his power. So I think to say he can't do something
mhm.
is limiting him. And I know we talk about that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
And sometimes I think people approach topics from the mindset of fear of the devil first
yeah,
before assurance in God first, if that makes sense.
absolutely. I think
Um,
a lot of people in the deconstruction space have kind of come out and said that. of
Yeah.
we idolize fear. In a sense, we make
Mhm.
fear an idol
Yeah.
over what is actually, like, told to us, like, our own divinity through Jesus.
Mhm.
And, yeah, it's just interesting. Sorry to interrupt, keep going.
No, no, no. I agree with you completely. And I'm curious if that is kind of the mindset and the deconstruction that you went through last year that brought you to your connection year this year. I know you talked on it in a previous episode, but month by month, you're doing these series of connection.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of wanted you to, just because I'm extremely curious, kind of recap last month and how you were feeling spiritually, emotionally, and physically.
Yeah, last month was connection to self. So that was January, and it was I decided I just really had a tug on my heart to have last year was like a real surrender year for me and not like the controlling surrender, but the okay, I really want to understand and know who God is. I also want to clarify, I don't think that you have to struggle to understand who God is. I don't think he wants us to struggle or have a painful surrender. I think for me, a lot of that was needed because I needed to shed a lot of things that I didn't even realize I had. And it was painful because, yeah, it was just like for me, I think a lot of people it is painful, but I don't think it has to be. So if you're listening and you're like, I really want a relationship with God, but I don't want to go through all this, I don't think that's how it goes for everybody. And so I think you can just start with where you're at. And so then this year, I really wanted to deepen that relationship with him and connect even further. And I just felt led in prayer to have this entire year be about, I just kept hearing connection. And I was like, okay, it's community building, it's connection to my neighbors, to my friends, to my family, to myself, to God. And so I came up with like 12 different categories, and last month was connection to self. And so I kind of dove in. I had no idea where to even start. There isn't really a roadmap for this. But I started pretty surface level of like, okay, like what hobbies should I like? Like what should I pick up? So I started doing sourdough. I didn't really have any hobbies outside of work and children. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let me pick up a hobby. So I started doing sourdough and I loved it. And my
Yeah.
mind just turned off. And the only other time that's happened was with um reality TV. But
It's like mindless entertainment.
okay, yes, exactly, and I love reality TV, especially Real Housewives. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so I but the sourdough, my mind was, like, quiet, and
Yeah.
so it was, like, a deeper state than when I watch reality TV, and so I
Well,
was
yeah,
like,
because 'cause you're soking in all of that chaotic
"Yeah,
energy, like, "Oh, what is happening?"
exactly," and so I was like, "Oh, okay," and then I started kinda diving in I looked it up because I was like, "Huh, why do I, like, had that connection. I'm like, "Why do I like, why am I turning off my brain, like, with the mindless entertainment type stuff, but why is it so different than with the sourdough?" And so I started doing some research and, like, sitting on it and praying, and I was like, I think I was distracting myself with reality TV and which is I still love it. I will still watch it, and I still
Yeah.
do. I'm gonna
Yeah.
clarify. But that was, like, my release. I thought I was, like,
Yeah.
decompressing, but I was really just distracting myself. So that's why my
Yeah.
nervous system was still so, like that's why I was still so anxious and wasn't able to hear God and, like, connecting. I wasn't actually allowing for any quiet, and in sourdough, it was quiet. I know that sounds so ridiculous, but there was
It
quiet.
doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, there's quiet in the sourdough, and so it's a process, like, you have to kind of nurture it and tend to it, and let it rise and then check it and then do, folds. And I started doing the lazy girl sourdough. And then once I realized I could do it, I wanted to get better at it and like I wanted a higher rise on my bread. So then I started doing all the extra stuff. And yeah, it's just been so fun to do that. And I've really been able to connect. I'm like, oh, I actually like cooking. I thought I didn't because I didn't have time. I think that's another thing that I realized in connecting to myself is like figuring out what I like. I think that I don't have time for things. And I think that's a common thing we tell ourselves like, oh, I'm so busy. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to make dinner. I don't have time to, do sourdough. I don't have time to take my kids to the park. But I also think, this is something that I've realized in connecting to myself is that message is not my own. That
Yeah.
message is actually like consumerism and capitalism telling you to
Uh-huh.
get quick meals, to get things that like because it's marketing. And I literally
Well,
work
and
in
it's
marketing.
also,
S-
yeah, and it's also saying that these mindless tasks don't matter, and they
Yeah.
do. It's using your hands, it's using your brain, it's using your body, it's allowing yourself to be quiet. I mean, I would argue that that is the most important thing first.
Yeah.
And then, you do have to like pay bills and
Yeah,
raise your kids,
absolutely.
like so
Yeah.
um but society will trick you that you're these things don't matter, you're wasting time.
Exactly.
Um and that's a huge component of like slowing down and allowing yourself to have those moments because they do bring fulfillment. Even just like a quiet cup of coffee in the morning is like the
Yes.
most underrated luxury
Especially as a mom.
because people are like, gotta get my coffee on the go, gotta get out the
Yes.
door. Like, just wake up 15 minutes earlier
And
and just, like,
sit.
enjoy that cup of coffee if you're a morning person, or maybe at night, it's having, like, a cup of tea after staying up 15 minutes later after
Yeah.
everyone goes to bed and having that cup of tea and just being quiet. But, like, to me, that's the luxury of life.
Mhm. I think so too. And I think as society, we have been told that we need to go, go, go all the time.
Mhm.
And that is how,
Yeah.
like, as a very high, I guess, high achieving, high performing woman, I am very business oriented. I think that's the lie we've all been told. Even as
Yeah.
moms and people who you
Yeah.
run their homes, it's like your kids need to be doing something every single day. They need to be in all these activities. They need to have
Yeah.
all of this stuff. Like, what if what if we don't?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so go ahead.
No, 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 you're g no, I'm like, "Yes,
That yeah.
yes, pop
I
off."
I have explored the stillness because when I tried to connect with myself, I couldn't hear anything
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
I couldn't hear God.
I think when your environment is chaotic and noisy, you can't listen to your intuition, you
Mhm.
can't listen to God, um, and I think He provides these little mindless things that allow you to regulate and slow down and
Mhm.
put yourself back in alignment so that you can hear yourself and hear him. And most of the time, you're
Yes.
learning some sort of spiritual enlightenment, even with sourdough.
I
And if
know.
you're not,
Yeah.
that's okay. But like, if you're not, just maybe try it again because
Try it
there might
again.
be something
Well,
there.
and I like
Yeah.
sourdough for me because I feel, especially if your nervous system is kind of fried and you're used to doing things all the time and you don't want to be wasting
Hmm.
time, you're still doing something with your hands. It's not like you're
Uh
actually,
huh.
I don't sit well
Yeah.
yet. I will, but I struggle to sit. And so for me, doing something with my hands that was slowing me down, that really
Yeah.
helped me. And I think that's why a ton of moms, I keep seeing, like, the type C moms that are overstimulated but wanna make everything that's why, because you feel productive, but you're
Yeah.
actively slowing your body and your mind down. And so I I started that surface level just looking for a hobby, and then I was like, "Oh, okay." I realized even though I've been doing mindset work, I am so dysregulated, like so dysregulated with my nervous system, with my that's why I can't hear anything. I mean, I can hear
Yeah.
it, but it takes a while for me to hear it. And so I started working with Heather officially in January. And one of my biggest things, so I had my spirit portrait done, I think in December. Started with Heather and like coaching. It's a 4-month coaching container. So January, February, March, April is when it will be over. And this past month, we really worked on just getting out what I'm feeling or holding. And I'm holding a ton. And so one of the exercises we ended up doing is because it's coaching, but not really. It's more art therapy and talk therapy. And so I was telling her that I just had, I'm trying to connect to myself. I'm struggling to figure out what I actually want to do and where I want to go and who I really want to be. And she's like, "Well, let's do an exercise where we basically draw our hands and then we write down everything we're holding." And I literally drew my hands, like traced them, and then wrote down, everything that I was holding. And it was a lot. It was a lot of emotions and feelings. And I realized I hold a lot of emotion. I do a lot of the emotional labor for friendships, for my husband, for my family. And they're not necessarily asking me to do that. I've just kind of assumed that in my personality and my role, I feel like in life, I just kind of take on people's projections. And she was like, some of this, so let's circle the ones that we can, like, do you need to hold all of this? Is there somebody else in your life you could share some of this with? And, some of it was like the childcare side of things or the drop-offs for carpool and, ask like speaking up and trying to figure out where and some of it's very simple like that, but then other things were literally, um, emotional support or emotional, like, turmoil over what's happening in our country, like, that kind of stuff. There's so much in there. And, then just financial support of that I was holding for my own family, and like, the financial pressure, and I just kind of, like, dumped it all out. And so she's like, "Let's see what we can, like, kind of offload to is there some of this that we were holding with other people that we shouldn't be holding?" And a lot of it I was. And then she's like, "Okay, now we have our kind of list that's left." And she's like, "I want you to draw your hands again. And this time, I want you to write what you think God wants you to hold." And I was like, "Okay." And so I wrote out what God wants me to hold, and he wants me to hold my family, my expansion, my spiritual growth, and I think it was, like, one other thing, I need to go look at it, but it was, like, 4 things. Oh, my company, my business, like, not all the feelings that come with my business, but just to push it forward, and, like, that was part of my kingdom work, was through my business, and so it wasn't all these other, like, feelings that I was holding, and it was a simple exercise, but just seeing it out, like, laid out there. And ironically, I not ironically, but I drew my hands in blue the last time, which is like the divine color in the energy, which I didn't realize until after I did it. And I was like, oh, of course, my God hands are blue, the color of divine. And so I, after I did that exercise, I was able to realize like what I needed to actively let go of. And so I started journaling and connecting to what and also on those hands, I realized that God, like that's what God is telling me to hold, but that's also what I want to hold. That's what I want because what I want is what God wants. And I think that's a really hard thing to understand because we're not taught that in church. We're not taught that in traditional Christian circles, that our desire is actually divine. Our true desire is divine.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we're taught that our sin is inherently, or our flesh is inherently sinful. Our desire is sinful. And that anything that our body desires or wants is not of God. But that is, from my understanding, not at all what he's saying in scripture, in just everything. So then, sorry, I'm like on a huge ramble, but then that led me to realize how dysregulated my body was. And I decided to take this like nervous system regulation challenge um, through, it's actually a private podcast that I was telling you about. And um, I think her name's Emily Giudice. I can never say it. It's like an Italian last name. But she's really good. She's literally a coach for a nervous system regulation and mindset coach for high achieving women. And I found her and I was like, oh, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna take this private podcast. And so I'm on, she wanted everybody to take an order, but I have not taken 3 days in order. So I just finished day 3 today. And that kind of leads me into my next challenge, which I think is connecting to my body. And I initially had like mapped out what I was going to do, like when I was going to do each month. And I have thrown that all away. So now it's just whatever the last month runs into, that's my next month. So I will not have any idea of what I'm connecting to until the end of the month, the beginning of the next month. Um, So yeah, that's kind of what I learned in my connection to self month.
So you're just kind of waking up each day and seeing, where it takes you as far as
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. I think I need to now understand, at least last month, led me to understand that my body is actually what's blocking me right now from a full connection. So I need to
Yeah.
connect to my body, which makes sense. I have a lot of health issues too, which I think are actually from reading the Anatomy of the Spirit. I think it all tracks, it all makes sense. I have
Yeah.
energy, toxic energy in different places of my body from just different things that have happened in my life where, you know, generationally too, I think. Uh,
Yeah.
so I have, for those that don't know, I have Hashimoto's, so a thyroid disease that fluctuates between hyper, so overproducing, and hypo, which is underproducing. And it's kind of a real bitch to have, to be honest, but it's okay.
I'm
It's
sure.
it's pretty stable right now. But I also have PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that is not currently classified as an autoimmune disorder. Hashimoto's is. Um, but PCOS, honestly, I don't think they understand it. It's kind of like a catch-all term for ovarian disorders and issues. But
Mhm.
I've only had one cyst that I've known of, so I actually have the PCOS. But this is interesting. I think it's almost 50% of people with PCOS don't actually have cysts all the time, even though it's called poly, so multi cysts, ovarian cysts,
Yeah.
like cystic
Yeah.
ovarian syndrome. So I don't think they understand it very well. When I was diagnosed with it, I was told to be put on birth control, and that's what would it would help it, but it really just suppresses the issue. And so I kind of went on a long journey a couple years back when I was diagnosed with nutrition. And then I did, got pregnant with Noah. And so the more I like dive into that book and kind of just like sitting in prayer and trying to figure out, okay, how do I fully connect to myself? I hear my body and I feel like it's my body. And so that is the goal for this month. Although I'm also starting to realize that I think an entire year could be spent on each of these connection topics.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, even in the Anatomy of the Spirit, she makes the statement that, learning your spirit and learning the lessons of this life and releasing things and growth and all of that, it's a lifelong commitment. It is
Yeah.
not like a 30-day cleanse.
No, it's
Um,
not.
I think some people accept their lessons head on, maybe faster than other people. But again, I look at that where I'm like, it's all divine timing.
Mhm.
The
It
way that
is.
we approach it and the way that we accept it and the way that we honor it is going to look different person by person. There's no like ticking clock.
Yeah.
It's just life, I think,
Yeah,
personally.
I agree. It is. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting to see other people that are maybe further along in their journey than you and maybe did get that clarity so quickly. And there is a part of me
Yeah.
that is kind of jealous of that because I'm like, oh, why didn't I, clear this sooner? Or why didn't I connect that maybe some of my health issues are energetic things that I'm not saying all health issues are related to energy. Um, but I definitely think that our nervous system and our plays a role in our health issues. And so I was like, why didn't I put this together sooner? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But you're right. It's all in divine timing. God
Yeah.
is kind of unveiling things and showing us in our own timing. And I actually saw something, I want to say it was on Instagram, and it it was this meme and it was like, why am I so far behind? I don't understand. This person's doing XYZ and I'm not. And it's like, oh honey, you're in a different race. And it's so true. We're in totally different
Yeah.
races and yet we all compare to each other.
Absolutely. It is. And I think a lot of women in the Bible can relate to how you feel. And I've certainly felt that way often. But I mean, even looking at Sarah, who wanted a baby and
Yeah.
God didn't tell her she was going to have a baby till she was what, 70 plus?
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth, I think she had John or got pregnant with John way later. Like I think
In
she
her
was,
50s.
yeah. Um, And so I think that is a real human feeling to feel that way. And I have sat through that as well, which kind of brought to light to me, even more so recently. And it was something that clicked with Heather for the short time that I was
Yeah.
present for that conversation. She was like, and I'm going to butcher her words because I wasn't 100% present in that
No, I
moment.
get it.
But she, she mentioned something about like her word, I guess, over her spirit or her being is acceptance. Like she's always seeking acceptance and seeking approval. And that really resonated with me to the point where I was like, okay, I have to like dig into this.
That was
Like
her wound. That's what she was
her
saying, where
wound,
her
her
wound.
wound.
Mhm.
Correct, correct. So when I started digging, I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's my wound too. Just looking back from like childhood to adolescent to adult to being a mom, that's how I operate as well. And I think that seeking validation and approval shows up in so many different ways. And that can even look like comparing ourselves to others because
Yeah.
we're trying to seek self validation by the experience of someone else. And the way that we process it is like, I'm doing something wrong, or I'm behind, or why didn't I see this sooner? it's because, like, it's so simple, and the fact it is you're just not supposed to. You weren't supposed to. Like, we all have different lessons that we're supposed to learn in life, and they come at the right time. And
1000%.
it's frustrating, but I think letting go of the control of that is super freeing, of it'll come and I trust that. And I
Mhm.
think the fact that you're even willing to know yourself and to know your wounds, because a lot of people want to know themselves, right? We live
Mhm.
in a society where it's a very self-help society, which,
Yeah.
you know, I think like everything in life, there's good and bad to that. Um, Personally, a lot of people don't want to see their wounds or what's maybe blocking them
Yeah.
or
And take
what's wrong with
accountability
them
for it.
and take accountability. And I think that's where the avoidant nature and characteristics come into play of like the reality TV
Yeah.
or like scrolling on Instagram, or like for me, it's reading like romance novels on Kindle. Like that's where, or I'm like, I need to disassociate
Yeah.
fully. It's been a day. Like my husband knows when I whip that Kindle out, he's like, I will see myself out. Like she is not,
She
she
is
is checked out.
decompressing. Yeah. And I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything wrong with that. Like, you
Oh,
deserve it. Like, you really do. It's okay to have that. But when we always go to that,
yeah.
I think
Instead of
that's
facing it head on.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm curious, as a child, were you modeled that behavior of you have to, like, is that why you feel like you can't sit still? Or was it more of a, like, what you were seeing, like, in front of you by society?
No, it was definitely my dad.
Okay.
He does not sit well. He
Mhm.
is one of the hardest working people I know. He came from absolutely nothing and built this like took over my mom's dad, so my grandpa, his business, pulled it out of hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and has really
Wow.
created an incredible, yeah, he actually took over the business. My grandpa was sick and still ran the business for a while and was making some pretty big mistakes that resulted in quite a bit of debt for the business. And so my dad ended up, he was their biggest sales rep at the time. And so he was pulling in a certain percentage of um, revenue for the company. And so he had the ability to buy it. But in order to buy the company, he had to literally leverage every single asset he had. So he put the houses, the cars, everything on the line as collateral for the company, and then did a payout over a certain number of years to my grandma, because my grandpa was sick. And so, had he not done that, the company probably would have been sold for like a couple cents on the dollar. And the debt probably would not have been paid in full. And so I think there's like a twofold and also it caused my entire family to kind of blow up. There was a lot of fights between the family and um, I was so young at the time and so were my cousins and it was a big family business on my mom's side and I don't want to tell their story or anything. We're all good now. We all talk now and so I think it's fine.
Yeah.
But I just saw this, well, one, I saw money as a problem. Like it's something you had to have and it was worth fighting over. Like, like that was the most important thing was money and it was also the scarcest thing and you had to be hungry for it and you had to work your ass off for it. And it was not guaranteed. People would take it, would pull it right out from under you. So you also had to protect it like with your life. And if you stopped working,
Yeah.
you stopped making money.
Yeah.
And you also can't spend your money really because then it's gone.
Yeah.
And so and there's nothing wrong with my dad. That is how my dad, that's how he survived. That's how he
Yeah, I was
got
gonna say.
to where he is. And he provided
Yeah.
literally every single thing we could have ever needed and honestly wanted it as
Yeah.
children. Like I never really went without anything I did. I'm sure maybe I had to wait a minute, like to get what I wanted. And I never got a pool. Darn. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he provided and took the entire financial burden for our family, not just our immediate family, but also provided for my grandparents.
Yeah.
And to see that modeled and then see how hard he worked, but then also to see is like I love looking up to him and I love how much of a hard worker he is, but I also see that a lot of my own control problems come from one, seeing that modeled, but two, they were also reinforced because I think I wanted my dad's approval and he would only really pay attention to me, which is terrible. He did pay it. He was a wonderful dad. There's nothing like he was a wonderful
That
dad.
was
But
your lens of your experience.
I felt like I
Yeah.
would get praise if I got all A's, if I was constantly improving something, if I, made money. I remember I ended up like saving money from I worked all throughout college. Another thing, didn't sit well. Worked all through college, even though they paid for my college and
Mm.
my housing. Um, which I know is such a gift and such a privilege. And but I still worked all throughout because I thought like I needed to
Thought that's
work.
what you were
That's
supposed to do.
Well, and
Yeah.
my dad was so proud of me, like, so proud of me, and I remember I had about a couple $1,000s in savings at one point, and he called me and he was like, "I saw your bank account. I am so proud of you." Like, I just had so much praise with
Yeah.
work ethic and money,
Uh-huh.
and so I think that's where a lot of my programming kind of came into place. And I think a lot of people, you kind of inherit programming from your parents. I think everybody does to some extent. And he inherited that because of his own experience. And like it is true. Like if he didn't work, there was no money coming in.
Yeah, he was
Um,
in like a real sink or swim situation
yeah, I think
where
he's been in
I
fight or
don't
flight
know.
for
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah. Well, he probably feels like if he sits down, and I can't speak for your dad, this is just like
Mhm.
my recap of your brief summary.
Yeah.
I wonder if he feels like if he sits down, then everything will just start sinking again.
Oh, 1,000%. He says that all the time. He says, "I
Yeah.
can't sit. I am the company.
Okay.
I am
Yeah.
the," and he says that because he won't bring in another sales rep.
Yeah.
He
Well, he
won't
probably doesn't trust someone to
he doesn't.
handle
He doesn't. My
what.
mom does, they work together, and my sister now works there too. So she has done a great job. She wants to expand into it's a printing company. It was a graphic design as well, but that ended up not working out. It was like a so now it's just like printed promotional products. So papers, mostly B2B. So businesses that order, apparel or brochures or whatever for their customers, their clients, their own employees, versus one-off things that you would get at like Etsy or Vistaprint online or something.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so he I always say, I'm like, "Hey, you really should bring in another sales rep." And he's like, "I don't trust someone to do that. And I also don't want to train them. And then they just leave and take my shit because he thinks he
He's
doesn't
out to
think
get him.
everyone is kind of out to get him because that's the energy he puts off into the world. And I think
Yeah.
if you look hard enough, you will find what you're seeking. And if you think everyone is out to get you, people will be out to get you.
Yeah.
And
You attract the energy that you
1,000%.
put out.
If you're so scared, that's kind of what manifestation is, and people don't even realize that you're manifesting all the time. So if you are so
Yeah.
scared and getting so much energy that your money is going to be stolen or things are going to be taken, you will lose out on opportunities. Things will be taken and stole, because that is where you're placing your energy. That is what you
Right.
are manifesting.
It might look like something different than what you're originally afraid of.
1000%.
But
But
I wonder if that's what part of what, the apostles meant when they would speak about like breaking chains
oh
on your spirit.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, that actually totally makes sense. That's an interesting connection. And it makes me think of my blocked image from chat with all those chains. Do
Oh,
you remember
yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. But yeah, no, I
Oh my
remember.
gosh, maybe that's what it is. And so, yeah, it's really, I think a lot of people struggle with that feeling of scarcity and the feeling that people are going to take from you and that everyone is out to get you. I mean, that was literally I love my dad, but that is literally what was told to me. Like, this world will, you know, chew you up and spit you out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And the only way you are going to make it in this world, he was like, everyone will always be smarter than you, better than you, faster than you, but you can outwork them. And
Okay.
I was like,
There's a lot to unpack there.
yeah, but that is what I grew
Yeah.
up with, right? And so that's why I don't sit, right? Like, as
Yeah.
I'm kind of unpacking this, but it's because he truly believes that. And to an extent, that hustle culture, it works. It does get, like, you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
get
You
by
do
in
see
life.
results.
You
Yeah.
do, but at what
Yeah.
expense? Your health,
Right.
your
Right.
family, your relationship, you know?
Your nervous system. And that's even like people don't hold that to as high of standard where I'm like, no, that
No.
is a precious
Yeah.
gift that you need to protect. I do
Mhm.
wonder, I feel like, um, your dad giving you validation when he did see like the fruits of your labor,
Mhm.
essentially. I wonder if it was like his backwards way of being like, okay, she's one less thing that I have to worry about
1000%.
because,
Yeah.
of course, you're his child. He's worrying about you day in and day out and if you're going to be okay. Um, so I wonder if the praise came from a place of like, okay, I can breathe.
Mhm.
That part is taken care of. Now what's next?
Uh-huh. I think so, because my sister, who is 2.5 years younger than me, we're very different. She's a lot like my mom. And so my mom is very ADD, like very into the flow, very type B. Um,
Uh-huh.
which is funny that she married my dad, who's total opposite. Um,
Well, brief intervention. They say like spiritually you marry people opposite of you because spiritually they are intended to be your mirrors.
yes.
So you're supposed to gain something from your covenant partner that you may have blocked or not seen, or it might just be a lesson and then vice versa. So
Mhm.
I can see why your parents,
Arts.
were
Yeah.
attracted to each other.
And they do love each other so deeply, like, they fight like cats and dogs,
Uh-huh.
but it's because they trigger each other, and I tell them that all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
I'm like, "You
yeah.
need to ask why. Why am I so triggered by this?" Like, they don't sit in the they're getting better at it, though. But, yeah, so my sister is exactly like my mom. Like, literally, they have the same name. She named her Meredith Brooke, like, Meredith. They're both
Uh-huh.
Merediths. Meredith through and through. And, my dad always kind of felt like my mom was, I don't think he thinks of her as a liability, but from my lens, and I think as like I think a lot of men that are, and that's common in that space, they think of their wives as liabilities because they just spend, well, my dad says there's two things in this world, there's assets and liabilities. Are you an asset to me or are you a liability? And I know that's
I
I
feel so like
I
sad for him, for his
I know,
mindset, but
I know.
also he seems like he is a warrior, and he took something from not even nothing, from
From
less
negative
than
nothing.
nothing,
Yeah,
drowning, and he put all of his energy and integrity
I know.
into it, and that says a lot about a person.
I know I don't even wanna I feel bad because as
No,
I'm
no, no,
saying
it's
it
so
out, like,
hard.
he is the most like, he would give you the shirt off his back. If you called
Yeah.
him like, he's the kind of person that if people slide off the road, he literally, like, stops, like, like, if there's, like, snow, and he will, like, pull them out with his truck. Like, he will tote like,
Yeah.
he is the
He's
most
like a rescuer at heart, like, he wants to save people.
truly, like, the most and talk about integrity. Like, he does not li that's another thing. You never lie, cheat, or steal. Those are his, like,
Mhm.
biggest rules. You don't lie
Yeah,
because
those
if
are
you
his moral
yeah,
codes.
that's his moral
Yeah.
code, and so he is the most in has the most integrity, the most, like, morals and for that, but he does view the world through this lens that is really limiting, and I think he's starting to kind of come out of that. He's been in a Bible study for about a year with some of the men, but I think that he's starting to and also him and my mom, they go back and forth because I think this is hard obviously hard for my mom too. They're both it's an interesting I hope gosh, if they're listening to this, I'm sorry that I'm, like, spilling all the tea. Um, but that's kinda where my beliefs came from, and they always say that. They're like, "We're so sorry we fucked you up." And I'm like, "No, it's okay. You didn't mess me up. Like, it's okay. You did the best you could with what you had at the
Yeah.
time, and I'm so proud of them for how much they've grown even in, like, the past few years. Like,
Yeah.
their spiritual journey. Because I think one thing with parents is we don't realize that we're each on our own journeys, and
Yeah.
probably from they always say, like, "Gosh, I wish we were where you were now." And so I'm, like, going back full circle into what we were talking about earlier. I'm like, "I'm not, far enough along as this person," or my parents are looking back on me like, "Gosh, I wish I was doing this when I was your age instead of at 55."
Yeah.
And so I think it all goes into that divine timing of what we're meant to do and where we're supposed to be, and I also think people don't talk about I really had a hard time when I first started therapy, talking about my parents in a bad light at all because I felt like if I said some of the things that happened, then they would somehow be bad parents, and they're not bad parents. They were the best
Yeah.
parents, like, truly so wonderful. But yeah, they made mistakes, but I will say one thing, they made mistakes, but they always said they were sorry. Like, they always
Yeah.
owned their mistakes, and even now, they still own like, if I went to my dad and I was like, "Hey, like, it really messed me up." You said it didn't really mess me up that much with assets and liabilities because 'cause I'm like, "That's just the way he is." But I did soak that in. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, If I said this really upset me," he would be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Like, that's just
Yeah.
kinda that's my default mindset. That's kind of my
Mhm.
like, and I'm so sorry I pushed that onto you. And so he would do that. My mom would do the exact same thing. And so I definitely don't I hope I did not speak about them in a negative light because
No, not at all. And you actually said this same thing to me, that was really healing for me, where I know I have childhood trauma. I don't know that I would beg to make the claim that I don't think there's anyone on this planet who doesn't have, like,
yeah.
even an ounce of childhood trauma, um, where I feel like I couldn't speak that out into
Mhm.
the universe because, well, 1, I'm a people pleaser, so, like, thinking about hurting someone's feelings, like, cripples me.
Yeah.
But 2, exactly what you said, it would make me feel like I was saying that my parents weren't good parents. It made me feel like I wouldn't be acknowledging the fact that I actually was very privileged growing
Yeah.
up. Um, that they provided. They kept me safe. And look, I get that's bare minimum. Like you
Mhm.
keep your kids safe, you feed them, you provide for them, you give them shelter. It's not something to be praised.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember you said like I felt like I just like couldn't say it. And I remember you telling me just because you have childhood trauma doesn't mean your parents are bad parents. And that totally changed my mindset of it, where I was like, "Oh, wait,
Oh.
I can actually honor myself and what didn't work for me
Mhm.
and honor my parents." And I think the way that we approach these conversations with our parents matter so much because if you're approaching them with the lens of, like, shame and guilt and, like,
Condemnation.
anger, which condemnation, which I'm not saying isn't human, right? But I've found for myself that that didn't work, and it only created more of, like, a fracture.
Yeah.
When I started and I'll tell you, like, the most healing thing happened to me the other day looking through baby pictures that my uncle
I
found,
just did this too.
and oh
My
my gosh,
my
yes.
grandma just gave me a mini album of my, like,
Y
first year.
yeah, and
Oh,
so yes, my uncle showed up at my house just like I didn't know he was coming, he just walked in, he's like, "Here, I found these baby photos, I think they're mostly of you." And so I looked through every single one of them, and it slowly started to heal me because you can see how cherished
Mhm.
and loved I was in these photos along with my siblings, like, family coming together, just, like there's even, like, me in the background of some pictures, my aunt is just holding me on her shoulder. Like, there's so much love and joy and protection, and I'm looking at my parents in some of them, and they look exhausted. And I'm like, "I relate to that. I relate to
Yeah.
that." Like, I am not operating as a perfect parent 100% of the
No,
time. Like,
because you're
I
barely
already have
awake.
regrets. Exactly. And so that was really healing for me of like, yeah, there's still things that didn't serve me, and I
Mhm.
have to acknowledge that, and if part of the healing process is me working that out through like, with my parents, God willing, they're receptive, but approaching them with the lens of, "Wow, they're human beings too.
Yeah.
They have trauma." We're all walking around with
Mhm.
trauma and pain. It does not excuse certain types of abuse.
No,
I'm
of
not saying
course.
that at all. Um, but just, like, approaching it that way has been so healing for me, and I hope with my parents too, and I'm also like, who gave them a book to do
No,
this?
there's
Who
no book.
They had 0 resources. Think about all the resources that we have, which again doesn't negate our feelings and our experience as children. But I have just a sense of gratitude that, like, wow,
Mhm.
I have resources just at my fingertips that they didn't have. So there is a level of,
Grace.
okay, I get that. Grace. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was a really long-winded tangent of just like how my experience was with them. And you'll even like opening up to my parents, I'll even hear my mom say things that like her parents said to her when
Yeah.
she was 7 years old and she's 64, 65, and it's still in there. Like,
In their mind. Yeah.
yeah, I think the fact that we care to do something different is not a new concept. I think parents have been doing that from generation to generation, but still holding, family values close to their heart. I think where maybe some frustration comes from is when you're trying to dig deep and do something different and heal and grow, and you're approaching someone who doesn't care to do the same.
Mhm.
It's almost like, well, if I can do it, then why can't you?
Yeah, and when you're coming
But it
at it
goes
with just wanting a conversation, I think that's why there is
Mhm.
this, I guess, epidemic of no contact, and for
Yeah,
those
yeah.
that I mean, not to pull Evan's family completely into this, but that is the difference between the relationship I think I have with my family and their family is that we
Mhm.
have, we're not perfect. We, of course, approach things with a lot of, that we were hurt and things where we were upset about things and Evan was upset about things. But I am very confident in the fact that we tried for years to just sit
Mhm.
down and like really be heard and just say, "Hey, this is what happened. This isn't right. This really, I know that you did everything in your power, like you thought it was the right decision in the moment. And I'm not saying you were a bad parent, but this is how we're feeling. Like, we're here and you're here. Like, how can we come here? How can we
Yeah.
understand? Like, we're so sorry for the pain that we've caused and, for not being more vocal about this sooner. And to just be met with such
Resistance.
resistance of like, there is no wrongdoing. They
Yeah.
did nothing wrong. Um, it's hard. I think that is why and I think it goes back to I think a lot of parents in that generation in the Gen X, I think it's Gen X, Gen Xers and boomers, like that, those generations, they really have a hard time equating. My parents had this too. They had to work through it of understanding that just because they made mistakes does not equate to them being a bad parent. And so I think it's
Yeah.
the same thing for Evan, like his parents, yes, they've made mistakes. I would argue some of the mistakes are relatively large but you know
Yeah.
what? Like we all make mistakes. We all do this, but it's like that does not mean they were a bad parent. And
They're
acknowledging
they
that
just did they just did bad
they just
things.
did bad things. And we're all
Yeah.
people. We are all human. We all do bad things sometimes. That does not mean we are bad people. That does not mean we are bad parents. What defines us is how we and that thing makes me think back to Megan's episode is it's in the repair. How do we repair
Mhm.
it? And if we act like it's
Yeah.
not existent and we resist the repair, that's when relationships get fractured. That's when we can't come together in unity and work through
Yeah.
things. And it's so
Yeah.
sad. It sucks. But I also
Yeah.
think there is this other side to this epidemic of no contact where people just get hurt or their feelings get hurt and they avoid or resist in another way. And
Yeah.
they decide to go no contact because they don't want to have the conversation.
Right. They don't
They
wanna
don't.
face it. Yeah.
Mhm. And so, it's hard. It's so hard to walk that line.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I think when you're trying to repair a relationship and the person on the other end is approaching everything through shame
Mm.
and resisting, to me, because 'cause I've sat in a very similar situation with
Yeah.
family, to me, it seems like they don't want to repair. And then now I feel like I've entered into a space where I'm not safe, my husband's not safe, my
Yeah.
children aren't safe. And as much as heartbreaking as it is to go no contact, you do have to put your family first.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying. It's such a fine line of like, I'm coming to the table, approaching you as a human being with compassion and grace. But I too am a human being who have been hurt by your actions. And these actions are just not ones that I can excuse without an explanation, without you taking accountability, because that is me sacrificing my moral code and my beliefs and my energy. And I want to repair this with you, but if you can't meet me where I'm at, then we're just not compatible.
Yeah. And it can't
Um,
keep happening. That's
it
also the other
can't.
thing. Like it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, you just say bad words or cuss words. Like it's so
Right.
far beyond that.
No, there's like abuse there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I think another thing is to say it's not abuse is really hard too, because I think people think of abuse as only physical abuse but there is so much more in that line. And again,
Yeah.
abuse, and this is going to be maybe a hot take, but emotionally abusing your kids, financially abusing your kids, um, all of these kinds of abuse, they have an impact on your child, but like you I still don't think that that makes you a bad person or a bad parent. Like, you can come back from that depending on like, I always think there's nothing too big for Jesus to reconcile and fix, truly, I think.
With
But
the
it's a
exception of maybe, and I just want to interject, like, just because I have friends who I know have sat through parental sexual
and
abuse,
I think physical abuse is kind of
parental
is
physical
hard.
abuse, but I feel like most kids, and this might, I can't make this as like a broad statement, but just from my experience from people close to me that have sat with this, there has come a time where they
They
have
want
tried
it.
to reconcile
Yeah, I know.
and they're just not met with it. So, yeah, and I too, I think there are some children who grow up in very violent, dangerous situations that like they have to get out
Yeah,
of
like,
there
it's not
and
safe.
never turn back. It's not safe and valid.
Yeah, I
But
guess
just
what
from my
I'm
experience, no, I get what you're saying.
yeah.
I 100% get what you're
Well,
saying.
sometimes the unity,
Um,
though, doesn't necessarily mean that there is a relationship. Like, what I was saying is there's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
too great that Jesus can't heal, and so
Oh,
sometimes that
yeah, yeah.
is, bringing
Separate
families
from
back
your
together.
parent.
But sometimes it's bringing them back together, other
Yeah,
times it might not be that reconciliation that you really want, you so desperately want, because
yeah.
it maybe
You
it's not safe, literally not physically safe for
Yeah,
you, or maybe it's not safe for your kids now. Maybe it's not
yeah,
safe for your nervous system and your emotions. And I think that's totally okay, but you can still be made whole in
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's like you rounded it out perfectly because I think for a lot of people in religious culture or even society, there's such a pressure to reconcile. And I get
Yeah.
it because I do think it brings healing, but sometimes reconciliation, just like you said, comes completely separate from your family. Sometimes it's you being alone and creating a new family and
Yeah.
finding that closure and that wholeness and completeness. And maybe, your spouse or your kids or your career, if everything aligns with you. But my heart breaks I feel like the majority of kids just want to be told, um, why? Because I think they do want to understand. And
I
then
don't
I
think
just,
they know why.
yeah, yeah, I
I
agree.
think we're
And
asking
I
a
think
question
it's a
they've
lot
never
of,
thought about.
yeah. And they have to work through the shame. But I feel like it's such a wound so large that it reopens from what I've seen, with people close to me is,
Yeah.
they're moving past it, they're getting whole, they're working through everything, and then they have kids of their own. And then it is like you have ripped the hole wide open and they're sitting there looking at their child. And I'm going to try not to cry because, well, if I cry, I
It's
cry.
okay. Yeah.
Um, they look at their child, this like innocent, beautiful, joyous thing, and they're like, I could never do that to you. I would rather rip my heart out than ever put you through anything I've been through. And then I think they sit there and internalize, like, how could they do that to
To
me?
me.
Because I was this child once.
Mhm.
And I think it really fucks with their self-worth.
Yeah.
And that is like one of the most offensive things I think a parent could do to a child is not provide some sort of accountability, and it breaks my heart for the kids that have to, and they're 40-year-old kids that have to figure out I am worthy, and what my parents did to me does not diminish my
My God, you make me
self-worth.
cry.
I know, it's really, like, close to home, and you know this.
Yeah. No,
And I can't talk about it in depth because we have precious family members that we care a lot about,
yeah, I know.
but
And
it hits really close to home.
it's so hard. And I think that we have to try. The only way I can make sense of it is that they are so hurt in themselves and that they had such a traumatic event or upbringing or something that shifted, and they just live in this cloud of darkness, and they can barely, like when you're I don't did you have postpartum? I can't remember.
Mm,
When
yeah,
you're just like you feel like you're living in a cloud and you
yeah,
just are kind of floating through. In my mind, that's how I envision these parents. And they just are like in this cloud, this dark cloud, and they can't see out of it. And they're
yeah,
drowning and they're trying to gasp for air. They're trying to save themselves, but at the expense of their children. And I think there's just so much hurt. They don't even realize. They can't look beyond their own hurt to see the hurt they've caused.
yeah.
And it doesn't make it right. I'm not trying to excuse it. I hope you know that. Like,
No, 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 no,
I
I've sat through similar feelings, and then you feel like a crappy person because 'cause you're like, "Oh my gosh, why am I heartbroken for them? Like,
I
is there
know.
something
Yeah.
wrong with me?"
No, I felt the exact same way because I'm like, gosh, I can't imagine like growing up with such a like I'm even gonna think about Evan's parents right now. Like, I can't imagine what they grew up with. Like, I know what they grew up with. Like, I know they had really hard lives. Um, and there was a lot of emotional abuse there too. There was physical abuse. They like my heart just hurts so bad for them. And I think it's okay to be human and to like hold that space and understand that like they had it really hard too, but that doesn't excuse, the hurt that they've caused either. But it does help
Yeah,
you extend that grace and say, "Hey, I see where you were. Like I see how hurt you've been. I see how low you were and like how hard you've like worked to try to get out of it." And there's like you just so badly wanna shake them and be like, "Just wake up, like, just see what happens, like,
yeah, yeah,
get out of the cloud, like, we're
yeah,
here, like, after everything, we're still willing to make it right, like, we can fix this, like, we just need you to wake up." And sometimes, for some reason, they just don't wake up, like, God hardens their hearts, and I it makes me think I'm, like, reading Exodus right now, and it makes me think of Pharaoh, and
yeah,
for some reason God just kept hardening their hearts. And I think that sometimes that happens with our parents too. Their hearts will be hardened and we won't really know why, but it doesn't mean it's any less painful to go through.
yeah.
And so, man, this got really emotional.
I know, I feel like we probably both needed to release
I know.
those feelings. And two, I think it's worth mentioning when you do enter into those conversations to just let the Holy Spirit guide you, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
And sometimes there will come a time where like forgiveness is leveraged against you.
Yeah.
And it's really important to see that their version of forgiveness is not the same as Jesus' version of forgiveness. And don't let that trip you up
No.
because I've been there.
Yeah. Me too. And God, He, I love what you said. let the Holy Spirit lead, because you have everything within you to get through those situations and to work through those conversations. And yeah, forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Forgiveness does not mean that you just kind of pretend like you're fine and that your feelings like, okay, we can't wrap it up with a nice bow and be like, okay, that never happened, or okay, that happened, but we're
Yeah.
good now. You're never going to be hurt again by it, and we're never going to talk about it again. Okay, great. Like,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next thing. And we're also going to continue operating the exact same way we've lived our entire lives, moving forward. And
Yeah.
you're not allowed to get hurt again, because then if you get hurt again, you're just sensitive.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I just want to pray, and I will continue to pray, like, for all of the kids that are going through this, adult children, current children. Um, it sucks that it is such an epidemic, but I think it's for a reason. I think God is working, and this is a big generation of cycle breakers. And
Mhm.
this has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. Not to take the accountability out of it. I think we all need to be accountable, and it's really hard. So, yeah, I would recommend going into these conversations really open-hearted with some fences. Like, hey, this is my non-negotiable. You have to realize what's best for your family, for you, what God is leading you to do. And reconciliation is not the only way to wholeness,
Yeah. Yeah.
unless both sides are willing to fully open up and take
Yeah.
accountability. And
Well, I think people
yeah,
like to forget that with forgiveness, the first step is repentance. And if you're not willing to repent, or we can translate that to take accountability, then forgiveness, we're not even at that stage
yeah.
yet
So you're just
until
asking someone to
we
forget.
face this yeah, exactly.
Ah,
No notes. I have
no
nothing to
notes.
add.
I know. Ooh, man, this is a good one. Is this a two-parter?
No, I mean, maybe it was so good. And yeah, I feel,
I feel like I kind of healed a little bit there.
me too, very much so, at a really divine time when I
Yeah,
needed it.
of
A lot of
course.
your words, I just like have them wrapped around my heart right now, like a warm blanket. So thank you.
Oh, good. Well, I don't think
I
they were
love you.
fully mine. I love you too. I think I think it's the Holy Spirit. It's funny because I prayed. I like sat in prayer right before this, and I was like, Lord, just whatever I meant to talk about today, whatever we're supposed to, like, please just be in this conversation. Like, whatever you want out there, get out there. And it's
There it
exactly what you
is.
needed.
Yeah.
I love you too, though. It's so crazy how aligned we are.
I know. I know. It is. It's divine friendship
Truly.
is how I feel about it.
I do too.
My mom goes, "Listen, I support y'all. I listen to every episode, but I cannot listen to y'all before I fall asleep. It keeps me up all night." She's like,
Oh,
"I'm way too close to this situation." She is like, "I'm thinking about
does she
everything." She's
really?
like,
Oh
"I
my
think we're
gosh.
more of her like cup of coffee that gets her going rather than like," because I
We are
think
not a wind down
no.
podcast.
Even though we're like, regulate your
Regulate.
nervous system. But also, y'all want to hear some shit?
No, it is so true, because my Dee Dee says the same thing. She's like, I listen to your podcast. I don't agree with any of it. Not any of it, all of it. But I'm really proud of you and your relationship with Jesus. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, Dee Dee.
I love I love the unhinged feedback. Like, you made me uncomfortable today. I'm like,
Good. That's the whole point.
well, then I've done something right.
No, you made me uncomfortable today.
So,
Oh,
with that being said, we cannot wait to continue making people feel uncomfortable and whole and messy and safe
and
and
safe.
accepted.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
also, we're going to hold you responsible.
And ourselves. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
because we're all human and we all make mistakes, but it's all in
That's
the
right.
repair. So
Yep.
we're going to
Amen.
continue. We're going to continue. And if you're
Yeah.
listening, we actually have a lot of listeners. I didn't really realize that. For some
I know.
reason, I
I
thought no
forget
one was
that.
listening.
Me too. I feel like it's just you and me on here yapping away. And then I'm like, oh, wait, people
Listen to
are
this.
listening.
I know.
It's kind of like when you have a conversation and you realize, oh, Jesus was just watching that. God was like,
Yeah.
my bad.
It's like, oh, okay. Alrighty. And with that, have a lovely rest of your week.
Yes. Thank
All
you
right.
guys for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. Thanks for being here with us today. If something resonated, maybe a sentence, a silence, or a story, hold on to that. If you felt seen or stirred or simply curious, we hope you'll join us again. Until then, stay open, stay tender, and remember, there's always a seat for you at the table.